Okay, it's now 6 o'clock for the regular council meeting. So what we'll do is I'm calling this meeting to order at 6. Please remember to turn your cell phones either off or on vibrate. And would everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation.
Bow your heads with me, please. Dear Heavenly Father, we are gathered here tonight in the sight of your faithful Son and your servants. And Lord, we ask that your Holy Spirit would touch each and every person, strengthen our council, strengthen our city, but above all, may the Holy Spirit of God be the anointing factor in the decisions that are made. I submit this time and this grace into your hands in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, can we have roll call?
Councilmember Johnson? Here. Lissinovich?
Here.
Paris?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Stump?
Here.
Mayor McGuire?
Here. Madam Clerk, do we have any reports or late communications?
Yes, sir. We have several from Al Hudson via email. This first one is in regards to, from a reporter, in regards to comment from San Diego Unified Schools and public comment. The other one is a California court case, Thomas Patrick K. on habeas corpus. And then one originally dated March 5th, payments by 4,500 water and sewer ratepayers were not credited to the Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund in January 2019 and December of 17. March 6th, no revenue credited for aviation fuel in the Airport Enterprise Fund since July of 2018, over 8 months ago. March 19th, capital improvement expenses were overestimated by more than $13 million. March 20th, erroneous estimates distort city's 18-19 budget for end of February 2019. And those last ones were for JM Powers. That's it.
That's it. Okay, thank you so very much. Presentations. City Treasurer, Mr. Middleton.
Thank you, Jeff. Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff, and our public. I wasn't able to attend last Treasurer's meeting because of illness, but during that time we had about $38,000 in interest earned over the previous quarter, and it's not presented in this Treasurer's. I just wanted to bring that up. We are sitting now with about $15.5 million in our investment accounts, and at the time of this report, a little over $1 million in the account, and that's in our checking account, and that's all I have for this evening.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next presentation, Councilmember Johnson. You might want to grab a mic down there.
Sorry. Can you hear me? All right. So I have a few special awards tonight, so it might take me 5 more minutes, but I ask you to please embrace this and embrace these students and these teachers because they're a fantastic representation of our community, and they deserve their moment in the sun. So for the character awards from RPU, I have Anna Manu, Aliki Hodrick. And if I'm saying that wrong, can you correct me? That's right. So where is, okay. And I,
Oh, very good. Tammy? Tammy, can you put the mic closer to you so people can...
maybe in the back there, like some of the taller ones, perhaps. And everybody, show us your certificates. Hold them up there. Perfect. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you all very much. You make us very, very proud as a city.
That was great. That was enjoyable. Next up is civic community organization announcements. Do we have any civic community organization announcements? Got somebody coming up.
Mr. Mayor, Council, representing Victory Baptist Church, two quick announcements. There have been funds that have been given specifically through City Hardware to provide two summer camp slots for teens going into 7th grade through 12th grade at Camp Ironwood, July the 15th through the 20th. So the first two young people that would fill out the application want to go, they can have a free ride to camp. Secondly, about every couple months, I get a phone call or conversation in regards to the marquee on Cal City Boulevard and the way to Mojave. There is a website on that sign that says who's the owner of it. Victory Baptist Church does not own that sign. When you put up a portion of a passage of Scripture, everything is in context, context, context. So many times when you put up a portion of a verse, you don't get the full context. So with nothing else said, that is not our sign. That is not my sign. I don't know what precipitated 4 different people asking me this week if that is our sign, but it is not. So thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Any other organization announcements? Hearing none, we will move to consent calendar. All items on the consent calendar are considered routine and non-controversial and will be approved by one motion if no member of the council, staff, or public wishes to comment or ask questions. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes. Roll call vote is required. CC1, approved check registry, dated 3 through 3/21 of 19. CC2, minutes dated 3/12/19. Waive reading of subject minutes approved is written and order filed. CC3, DMV Donate Life California Month proclamation. CC4, adopt resolution number 319-2778 of the City Council of the City of California City approving a retired CalPERS annuitant to work in a vacant position. CC5, monthly department updates and reports. CC6, staff responses to questions from the public on March 12, 2019. CC7, resolution number 319-2782 of the City Council of the City of California City affirming the current Council of Governments governing board policy to finish the 4th and final 5.3 mile segment of the 33-mile safety widening project with pedestrian improvements on State Route 46 here in segment 4B through the disadvantaged communities of Lost Hill, connecting I-5 to the existing 4-lane segment. And CC8, Pro Spectaculars, Pyro Spectaculars approval for reservations of July 4th 2019 fireworks display. Does anybody have any questions dealing with CC1 through CC8?
Mayor,
Sir?
maybe just to see if anybody wants to pull anything for separate discussion.
Does anybody want any of the consent calendar items pulled for further discussion?
Could we have CC4 pulled and placed under new business and create a new business 6?
You could do that, but typically you pull them off and then discuss them right away after you approve them.
What we have here is a policy decision that the city manager has made, and I'd like to have it be discussed as a policy decision of the city council. And since the subject has been brought as part of the resolution, I'd like to have it discussed separately.
So your desire is to want to discuss it at
New business 6.
prior to NB, would it be NB 6?
Make it an MB6. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we had MB5.
We do have NB5.
Do we have an MB6 yet?
You can just move it there to discuss it there if the
Okay.
council-
Is everybody in agreement with that, or? Okay. So CC4 will become NB6.
I'd like to discuss CC5, but right after we approve it, I've just got a couple of questions on it.
Okay. So you just,
Just have two quick questions that I need answered on CC5. We can either do it now or after we approve.
So I would just pull it, really. Just go ahead and
okay,
pull it.
we'll pull CC5 to get those. Anything else? Anything else? Okay. So we'll be discussing CC4 as MB6, CC5 with just a couple questions. So anybody have any other questions now dealing with NB 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, and 8?
Okay, I'll start off with CC1.
Uh-huh.
Check number 104886 and 104965. Those are to Jones and Mayer, and this takes a new record of $94,900 for attorney's fees. That seems rather outlandish to me. And we'd like to have an explanation on why there's two checks. One of them was for $58,198.41, and the other one was for $36,887.38. That's a new record for the attorney's fees that since I've been here for 10 years, and I'd like to know what's going on with that.
Mr. Hudson, what's the second check?
104965. The first one, the last three were 886. The second one was 965. And check 104888. That's to Andy Heath for $3,500. I had done a public records request asking for communications on what Mr. Heath is doing for the county department, and I still don't have a reply on that.
We will get you a reply, sir.
Okay, now, the other is Public Works and the use of the credit cards. They've bought two laptops, one for $3,771 and another one for $3,770.99, and that is in addition to two other laptops that were bought at the previous check the previous council meeting. They were on this. So that's darn near $4,000 laptops bought by the Public Works Department. Would like to have some justification on that. And let's see, now we said we're doing what with CC5?
CC5 was the updates on
because what I don't see on CC5 is the monthly water main replacement that we're paying these 126% water and sewer rate increases for, because that's supposed to be 5 miles a year, and I just don't see that being kept up with.
Excuse me, Mayor.
And again,
Al, when you ask your questions, could you get a little bit closer to the mic?
oh, okay, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mayor.
And
Yes, ma'am. Time?
yeah, I think my time is up. I've used it productively, and thank you for not calling time on me only. Bye.
Okay, sir. Any other questions dealing with consent calendar? Seeing none or hearing none? Bring it up here. We'll start from left to right today. Do you have any questions? Sir?
Not to question anybody, but $4,000 laptop, if you, for 7? Okay. Okay.
Sir? Anything else other than? Sir, to you. You're good? Okay, so we're looking for approval for CC1, CC2, CC3, CC6, CC7, and CC8. Looking for a motion to approve.
I so move.
Second?
Motion made by Councilman Johnson, second by Councilman Lisenovich. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Lisenovich?
Aye.
Paris?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Stump?
Yes.
Mayor McGuire?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, now we're going to CC5 to discuss that.
Yes.
Sir.
If we go to the summary, let's see. This would be the HR summary where we, summary of all recruitment activity by department, November 2018 to March 2019. I see where we hired a wastewater, okay, it's a WWTP, Public Works, is that correct? We filled that position? No?
No, we're in the process of background and reviewing that background.
Showing here that the offers were made and that he was hired.
No, we're actually reviewing it. I was looking at it today, so I don't believe under the new laws, you have to actually, before you can do those things, to go through the background before you actually put them on, and we're reviewing the background right now. So that person still is physically not working for the city.
I could correct that. Before we can ask someone about their criminal background and do the check, we have to offer them a job under the law. Because if we are not going to offer them a job, they do not have to disclose anything. That's why it shows up that way.
offer him a job as a wastewater treatment operator too?
Any job.
Okay, because on our last positions, we only had a wastewater treatment operator in training open. How can we go from training to an operator two?
When I brought my original budget to the council, you actually voted on the positions in there, and I advanced one to the chief operator's position. The current operator 2 would have moved to the operator 3, and which opened up the 2 positions, the operator 2 and the operator in training. So within the budget process, council voted on those positions and moved that forward at that time.
So that means we have an operator 2 position open and an operator in training open, is that correct?
Yes, there's still only 2 people at the plant.
There's my question.
I have some questions though. Looking at this sheet, it says offers made, I heard 1, but it also says total hired, and it says 1. That total hired should say 0. So if we have one known error in this sheet, I would like to see it back. I'd like to have this pulled, and I would like to see it back in 2 weeks with the correct numbers on there, because there is an error, at least one error that I see right now. And again, I don't know how many others. So I motion that we pull this item and return it in 2 weeks.
I'll second that motion.
CC5.
CC5.
Or just the portion of CC5?
All of CC5.
All of CC5?
Because I don't know what else is in here.
Okay, we've got a...
May I make a comment? You found one error here. To assume that there are other errors is really putting out there that you don't have any faith in who put together this one report.
That's your assumption. That's not my assumption. I see an error, and I don't want...
You don't need to raise your voice.
I'm not raising my voice, but I see an error, and since I see an error, I'm giving them time to get it back to us in 2 weeks.
That was simply my 2 cents on it.
So we've got a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, can we do a roll call on this one just to...
Councilmember Johnson?
No.
Lisenovich?
Yes.
Paris?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Stump?
Yes.
Mayor McGuire?
Yes.
Motion carried.
So that takes care of that. So now we are through with the consent calendar, I do believe. Bear with me, because CC4 has been moved to NB6. All right. All right, so here we go with public hearing number 1. Public hearing to consider zone change ZC 18-11 and general plan amendment 1811 for an approximately 4-acre parcel, APN 299-261. All right. This is good. Oh, yeah, I forgot to get that. 261-02 in California City from open space residential / agricultural district ORA to light industry district M1. The property is located south of Mindenboro Road and west of Norelia Road, T32S, R37E, a portion of the northeast quarter of the northeast quarter of the southeast quarter of Section 22 MDBM. Applicant Michael Ellison, Community Developer or Development Director Alexander.
Yes, Madam Mayor. Last community I worked. I do apologize. Last community I worked for, in fact, Mayor McGuire has met the mayor of Ridgecrest, a wonderful woman. Okay, this is the time and the place, Mr. Mayor, for a public hearing. item is a zone change and a general plan amendment. We're requesting, Mr. Ellison is requesting rezoning from ORA to M1 and also to amend the general plan. The applicant is Michael Ellison. Very quickly, we can identify the site is immediately west of Neuralia. It's approximately 4 acres in size. You can see from the air photo. Here, you can see, again, it's in orange, the 4 acres that's being proposed for rezoning. It's immediately south of property that was recently zoned M1 last January by the City Council. So this is the site looking west, looking east, south, and north. This is only a conceptual site plan. Once the zoning has been approved, then the applicant will apply for a site plan approval. The
Hang on for two.
yes, sir.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, there was something that came up that was brought to the city's attention, and that I don't know if you want to address that, sir.
Yes, sir. That is that in recognition of state law, it should be understood that the City Council may only consider amending the general plan 4 times a year. You can consider as many projects, but the state law requires us to have to abide by only considering it 4 times a year. This is so we could place all these projects together. Well, last January, City Council amended the general plan, and you also did it in February. So at this point, we would recommend that rather than taking action on this requested rezoning and general plan amendment, that you continue the item until July 23rd. I spoke with Mike Ellison about this today. He understands some of these requirements. I told him that the staff can work very diligently with him on his site plan in the ensuing months, and therefore it would be our recommendation that after you take any public testimony, because we thought it was important to present the item tonight to give anyone that may have received a notice an opportunity to speak on it, but rather than take action, that you simply continue it, and that would conclude our staff presentation. Be very happy to answer any questions.
So right now, I'm going to open. We're going out of sequence here. We're going to open this up for public testimony because our plan is to continue this till July 23rd, 2019.
Christy Munt. I agree with Mr. Alexander and the rules of having only 4 general changes. We need to, as a city, improve and renew our general plan. We are working on a plan from the 1950s, maybe 60s. That's the 20th century. This is the 21st century. We need to have a body to sit down and go over all property in this city and rezone it in one fell swoop. So we don't have to do this every month or limit ourselves to 4 times a year of being able to do this. With the industry coming in, we need to do this on a large scale basis and get it done in one fell swoop. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for public testimony in reference to PH1?
Good evening, Mayor McGuire and Council. I'll be brief on the subject of a general plan amendment. I think it would be appropriate that you are made aware that there has been conversation with city staff and the planning department about a more effective outlook on the general plan and the general plan amendments. Some of the planning commissioners are here this evening. We brought testimony several months ago as well that the City of California City can take action that will improve upon the planning in the long term, starting with the general plan amendments, and really look at areas of California City that would allow us to truly attract industry by doing general plan amendments in areas, for example, along the boulevard or along 20 Multein Parkway that have either proximity to heavy traffic for stop and shop and or proximity to utilities, water lines, three-phase power, and sewer. As a person who has a little bit of experience in the field here, for 35 years, having worked with thousands of property owners, we have some knowledge that there are areas of the city that have potential based upon the infrastructure that already exists and might be appropriate to consider for a city-initiated general plan. Some of those ideas have been wrapped up in a proposal that I hope will be presented to your council for consideration as it relates to general plan amendments. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Madam Mayor, Council, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
I'm going to come in with a wig.
Yeah. Mr. Mayor, Council, I really appreciate the presentation, know exactly where the property is. I hope all will be like this. That was great. Appreciate the first picture. I think I saw one paw print of a kit fox. I'm not sure, in the left right-hand corner. I just want to, on the record, I think it was one picture.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Okay, going to go ahead and close public testimony for PH1.
It's got to be by motion.
Oh, sorry.
Make that motion.
Sorry. Second? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone was making a motion that we continue PH1.
No, to close the motion. Close public hearing.
We close public hearing.
Oh, no, okay.
And now I'm making a motion.
Now I can have discussion?
Why? Because we're going to be bringing it back.
Okay. Didn't call for it, though.
Would you like to discuss?
No.
Okay, I'll call for council discussion.
Let's go.
You set?
I think at this juncture, just make a motion to continue.
Just make a motion to continue to July 23rd. Council meeting 2019.
Make that motion.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that's going to be moved. Now we're going to go to public hearing 2. Public hearing 2 to consider zone change ZC 1903 and general plan amendment GPA 1903 for 2.3 parcels, APN 299-262-23 and 06 in California City from open space residential agricultural district ORA to light industrial district M1. The property is located south of Mendoboro and west of Norelia. T32S R37E, a portion of the north one-half of the southwest quarter of the northeast quarter of the northeast quarter, section 22 MDBM applicant Michael Ellison, Red Rock Canyon Holdings, Community Development Director.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Again, this is the time and the place for a public hearing. The item before you is to be considered is please bear with me. Here we go. This is the second public hearing. It is 1903. Same rezoning from ORA, which is pretty much a holding zone in California City, to M1. We are asking that the general plan be amended to light industrial, and the applicant again is Michael Ellison. This is the site which is actually immediately west of the site that you just considered. This consists of approximately two 2-acre sites. You can see it's catty corner from the property that was recently rezoned. This is the site from the north, south, east, and west. This is one of the conceptual site plans. There are two, and that was the second conceptual site plan. The staff, similar to the last item, because of the limitation of the number of general plan amendments you can consider annually, the staff is recommending that you continue this item to July 23rd. The staff would be very pleased to answer any questions that the council may have. That would conclude our report.
Thank you. Any council questions dealing with this one?
Make a motion that we continue it.
Well, we gotta open the public
Oh, that's
first.
right.
Okay. Since nobody's saying anything, we're not gonna ask for communications. Were there any on either one? Yeah, okay. Didn't think so. Call for public testimony in reference to PH2. Any public testimony? Looking for a motion to close public testimony.
Make a motion, we close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Looking for a motion to continue?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so that takes care of that. Those will both be brought back in July for further discussion.
Mr. Mayor, just for the record, both of the property owners were in agreement with the fact that it was being continued.
Okay, thank you. Continue business 1. Formal acceptance of the 2019 Fremont Basin Integrated Regional Water Management IRWIMP Plan. Mr. Platt.
Mayor and City Council, this is a housekeeping item by the state. Under Senate Bill 1672, established the Integrated Regional Water Management IRWIM Act in 2002. Intended to promote collaboration, integrated management of water resources. California voters passed a series of propositions hereby establishing and funding efforts under the state IRWIM program. These propositions authorized the legislature to appropriate grant funds for the IRWIM plan and projects and to establish eligibility requirements. The IRWIM program is administered by the state's Department of Water Resources, DWR, and this has been a multi-year task, and the three stakeholders in this, as I hope all of you know by now, is the city, Mojave, and AVAC, were the three large water purveyors in the region. Which formed the RWMG, and in meetings held in the public through various locations in the basin. And what was given to us is one of the last steps in the process is adopting the plan by the City Council and by the board of AVAC. And so we're bringing the resolution, which was forwarded to us through the state, and the plan has been reviewed. It's been reviewed by the Department of Water Resources. We actually received a letter approving the plan, and part of that then is to submit it with this resolution before the City Council. It's on the city's website along with the IRWIM and all the meetings and all the information that have been put together through the process. And this is one of the last steps. We have a funding round coming up here very shortly, which the city has, and the region, it's actually by region, and it's through the Lawton region, which reaches from here all the way up to Northern California. And the splits of the dollars that will come into this round of the Prop 1B funding. But this is coming to a close, and as soon as we do, I'll give you a complete detailed account of the grant and the billings and where we stand in the end dollars, which is roughly around $840,000, which included this plan, the salt nutrient plan, and the regional management And so now, honestly, a lot of the work moves forward as far as seeking funding. We've already received roughly about $160,000 within this process. Was for the DAC, which is Disadvantaged Communities, which was to put 2 water projects together, document and bid ready on both sides of the boulevard. So roughly about 80,000 feet per project, which we should be nearing completion of that, and then I'll give you a full update and report of where we are on that. So with that, the public notice to publish was in accordance with section 6066 of the Government Code, which was published on March 15th and the 22nd. And ask council to adopt the resolution formally accepting the 2019 Fremont Basin Integrated Regional Water Management Plan, known as the IRWIN.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Council have any questions?
Yes. Any council member read it? How many pages was it?
It's huge.
650 pages, 5 separate documents. Mr. Platt said a total of $840,000 for this. I'm showing $891,000. It comes to $1,375 per page that we paid for it. Are you aware that 75 miles of the city's second community is not in this IRWIN? Has anybody seen that? Or okay, that's part of the Antelope Valley IRWIN. Is that correct?
Well, we actually, our plan overlaps. The 2 plans overlap, so we encompass some into the Mojave region, which is to the north, to pick up the entire water district there, and Antelope Valley. The letters through the state, actually our system overlaps their system. And ours borders the Tehachapi's, which is, I'm trying to think of the Mason. Is it?
I think it's Mason.
The water agency up there, which is Tehachapi proper, and the water purveyor, and I'm trying to think of the agency. We border theirs on the foothills of the mountains up to the Mojave section. Because they actually, theirs goes up into the canyon, and we don't overlap there. So we're bound there, and we're bound in the Mojave region, which they actually changed their zone not to overlap, and ours was expanded to include Rands Mojave, or Randsburg, that the region there, and their whole water system. So they're actually in the Fremont Basin. So we do overlap the Antelope Valleys.
So am I correct to presume that areas excluded include Silver Saddle and at least 20,000 parcels in the second community? Is that out of this IRWIN, or did they cover it?
It covers the whole thing. We cover right up to the Mojave region's plan.
Isn't the definition of these
it's the watershed
is where the water is, and where the water is, whatever available water sources are underground?
And we border all of them. The only one we overlap is actually Antelope's Basin. And those 2 overlap, which is allowed under state law. And they accepted that as the boundaries. And we actually expanded ours because originally it was clear on the north side of Mojave and didn't include their entire water system. And it was the same on the north side. So it was overlapped to include all of Mojave's water system. And there is an overlap of the basin there, but Mojave actually, the Mojave Basin, which is huge, actually redrew their boundaries to accommodate the Fremont Basin and the water supplier that we represent, because they were not included in their plan.
Run that by me again.
They moved their boundary line.
Mojave.
Not Mojave. It's the Mojave's basin. So the Mojave Basin is everything to the east of us, all the way up to the high desert. And it comes all the way down to the lower desert, or this way, I should say the north side down by Ridgecrest, and that's part of the Mojave's basin. And they actually redrew their boundaries so we could pull Rand's water system into the Fremont Basin.
So, again, from what I read, it's, is it, again, let me know if I'm wrong, but we're pursuing projects or for our grant to do water main replacement, Central Park Lake restoration, and our wastewater upgrades. Is that part of the IRWIMP that I saw?
Projects were added into that, which were projects we already had on the books. And actually the water and booster station at Westway are all projects that were named because they were existing projects. But we can add to that at any given time. So we will be continuing to add projects. The two main ones were the one we got through the DAC, which were the project ready, construction ready, which we were awarded the roughly $160,000 already through the system.
It's 80,000 feet of
It's
water main.
I'll bring back the total when it's finished, but that's the plans, the bid specs, all the documents to have a shovel-ready project.
And so this is only for the engineering of those projects? The money that you're talking about?
Engineering, design, yes, to have a bid-ready project to put out to bid.
But the funding for the projects themselves is ours?
Is to be seen. Well, it's ours, or what the whole DAC, what the whole thing of this is the region manage their water or the state will manage your water. So we were one of the last regions, and I don't know if the last ones have finished to actually do this because this started some time ago. But it was all about if you don't do this, you basically risk not being able to be funded through the state. So the state threw this out there, manage your systems and your region so we don't have to. And the Fremont Basin is a low priority, which is kind of why it got pushed way back down the road. And then this last cycle of the state funding for projects, this is the last cycle they put planning money available, and it wasn't a lot. It was very little of the overall amount that was provided in Prop 1. They threw enough in there because we had been lobbying for planning money because how expensive it was to put these plans together. And so they awarded several $1 million to be set aside of the millions of dollars for agencies that haven't done this, plus the fact some of the early agencies that did this in the early years had to update their plans because the rules have changed since the early 2000s. So a lot of them got some money to actually redo their plan or bring it up to date. This is our first go-around.
So this is a planning document.
It really is a
and
planning.
a regulation
it's not about
document.
water rights.
So these monies don't. There's no monies for work in the ground, shovel work.
Well, it makes us available for all the monies that state puts out there for grants.
When was the last time we got any money from the state to do a water project?
$160,000 over a year ago to put the project together for planning. So we've
I mean,
got
when did we actually have? When did we actually get money that we put a shovel in the ground for that was state money?
from the whole 80,000 feet of pipe that was replaced on the north side actually was state money.
State money's actually paid for the pipe and the digging and everything else?
Yeah, or federal money. We're paying it back. That was not a straight loan, it was a loan.
Oh, you mean the USDA loan?
Yes.
Oh, okay. But that was not. That's not a state project. That's a federal project.
It's federal money.
Federal
through the
money.
State, yes.
So I mean, there is no state money.
No, we got 800,000 plus to do this, which was
To form the
basin.
Okay, got it.
And we've gotten 160 on top of that. And these are rough dollars. Don't hold me accountable for those. I will give you accurate dollars to do that shovel-ready project, which then would go back into the pot of money that we're eligible for to do.
So how much has the state and I know you can't answer this.
I'll give you a full accounting
I would like to know
of this.
how much the state has reimbursed us of this $840,000. we're putting money out with the expectation, with the expectation of getting money back. What I want to see is you've got water main replacement here, monies, and those are currently funded capital improvement projects. If we do this, I want to return monies to our citizens and reduce our water rates. We're 128% of our water rates, and our senior citizens can't pay for this. You know, it's, and then we're not getting the amount of pipe put in the ground that we said we would do as a city when we charge these people these rates. I'm just very concerned that we're continuing to increase the water rates for our citizens, and they're not getting the bang for their buck.
Nothing we have done has increased. Everything we've done is actually save the city money and save the residents that we've been doing over the last 4 years. This system failed. There's over $80 million in infrastructure in this city, and you're right, and I have said that since I've been here, that it's not sustainable with the current system based on miles per main per resident served. They don't balance. This money we get to replace pipe isn't going to change the rates. It's based on the total amount of infrastructure. As you know, we've been eliminating a lot of that infrastructure because it doesn't serve anything until it becomes necessary to serve.
I'm also seeing lawsuit after lawsuit where cities are tumbling because they're not complying with 218. We are charging our citizens water rates, and it's supposed to be for cost of service. And yet, you know, we've got this surplus of monies that you've put in your capital improvement fund, but I don't see the pipe going in the ground at a
Just
very high rate
approved
of
a
speed.
project that we're working on. We just finished a part of a project, which is roughly a 10,000 foot project. So to say it's not going in the ground,
I'm saying it's not going in the ground fast enough. You know, for what the amount of monies that we've taken from our citizens could do these projects, they're not seeing any gain. And I fear that we're ripe for a lawsuit, and I believe it's coming.
Mayor, if I could.
Sir.
This discussion is getting off the subject of the resolution that is before the council and is almost taking the form of an attack, and I think we need to have an opportunity to prepare to respond in more detail to the questions we didn't know were going to be asked tonight, and would recommend the council take action on this and then let us know what it is you need to know about the remainder of our water fund so that we can report that back to you in at a subsequent meeting.
Okay, sir.
Yes, sir. I agree with the city manager. Let's pull this, bring it up another time. Pull it, and bring it up in 2 weeks.
I would like to say not, because this is tied to the plan. The other two agencies have approved the resolution. Has nothing to do with what this other conversation was and has no bearing on that. This is actually the submittal of the plan accepted, which is a planning document approved by the state. We're the last agency to do this.
Are we late?
Huh?
Are we late?
We could be in jeopardy of some of the requirements to accept the plan. We've got the letter already from the state accepting the plan, but this is required to have that formal document done.
Okay, so what we'll do is, Don, if you could bring that up for the council agenda item. Is that okay with you? Okay. All right.
Wait. His action item is monies and accounting. The business item is an acceptance of the plan itself. There's no controversy over the plan itself. This is, when did we start this process? Do you have any idea?
Around 2012.
Been longer than that, I'm pretty sure.
Well, I'm aware 12 is
I'd
when.
sit back and say this plan has been created and written and approved by the other agencies. We're just here to say that we've received the plan and recognize relationship of us with the other water boards involved, and then the actual funding of the process and all those things is a separate issue and has nothing to do with what we're being asked to do today. What we're being asked to do is accept the Fremont Basin Integrated Regional Water Management Plan. So, with that, I would actually make that motion that we accept.
Well,
is that?
I had a motion on the
Okay,
floor,
okay, I'm
so
sorry.
I will have to remove my motion.
Okay, I'm
so,
sorry. Okay, go ahead.
For a second with the motions.
Okay.
Anything from the public? Sorry.
Yep, good evening, Al Hudson again. This item should be tabled until the council has had a opportunity to fully read and digest everything. Because 650 pages, I don't believe that the council has, each council member has thoroughly read through it and digested and looked at and cross-referenced it with the water rate study. Much less the council has not had the opportunity to prioritize these projects. And we've got the the lake is a project number 2. Well, is number 1. Water lines is way down the list on that. Now, if we look at Table 8, page 22 of the water rate study on the well improvement, you'll see that there was a bond that was supposed to have been obtained for this for $6.3 million. It wasn't done. And if we look at the sewer plant headworks, if you look at Table 7, page 7 of the water rate study, you'll see that there was another bond that was supposed to have been in place. And if we look at what's been going on with the with this Irwin, with Mr. Platt and such, you'll see that there's triple dipping on this. There's water rates involved, there's Irwin involved, and there's grants involved. And that's triple dipping. Because for this to be sustainable, it's got to be, there has to be a plan for the water rate reductions, which there is not. Now, Mr. Platt was talking about the timeliness. He was 10 minutes, not 10 minutes, but 10 months late in producing this. So 2 or 3 weeks or a month is not going to make or break this. It'll give everyone an ample opportunity to review it. And what I will do for this council, I will get there and give you a copy of this document right here, annotated with the cross references on it that you should really look into, because y'all's job is to protect the public. Now, the $800 and some thousand that Mr. Platt was talking about, that is reimbursement to the city for the efforts of the consultant. Not one penny of that comes into the city's pocket.
Mayor.
Yes, ma'am. Time?
My time is up, okay? Thank you.
Thank
now,
you.
One last question. Would you like me to send you copies of
Please.
this document
Please.
with the annotations? But we're tabling it, please. Thank you.
Good evening again, DJ Tuhig. This is a little bit above my pay grade. I'm glad that you've read the reports. I did want to ask you, as policymakers, you talked about the relationships in the agencies. As policymakers, is there a question at all about the relationship with AVAC in this report? And there was mention of Prop 218 and cost of service. We have pretty excessive building fee, a developer impact fee from AVAC, and I have not examined if there's any relationship or in this study as it relates to causing that to be verified as a necessary cost of service. And so as policymakers, would you please give due consideration to the AVAC fee in this analysis? Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, this has nothing to do with fees of the city or what was being referred to. This is a planning document for the basin that makes us eligible for state funding. That's all it is. It's not about water rights. It's about nothing about telling you how much water you can use. It's a perspective to make local agencies work together to manage your water system. It was required and mandated by the state. The conclusion is if we said, no, we're just not going to do it, is the state would manage our water. And I don't know any agency in the state that wants the state managing their water and saying where it's going to go and who's going to use it. Most of you are aware that we got into a huge suit with LADWP. In the end is who was behind about exporting water out of the basin way beyond the capacity of this basin. This only defines the reasonable use between the basins, but is a planning document, nothing to do with water rates, nothing to do with 218. It was mandated to manage the basin and the purveyors, which the largest purveyors in the Eastern Kern are AVAC, Cal City, and Mojave. There are many other members of this plan, but it had to have 3 large water purveyors as the head of this program. But there have been many, dozens and dozens of people and members. You have multiple water agencies within within the basin, and all have been part of this process over the last couple of years. So nothing to do with water rates, nothing to do with what was being referred to that we were late. We're not late on anything as far as the Irwin. We're late because we should have really done this 10 years ago. And we're running to the point where there was going to be no planning money, and we would have to produce this out of our own pockets. So fortunately, through lobbying over the last 5 or 6 years, the state put planning money back into the grant, and we were afforded that, and very fortunate that we did. So we did not have to do this out of our pocket. So you're right, it's all reimbursable through the state, through the grant we received. And we have gotten benefit. The projects aren't written in stone. We would still bring projects as we get them ready, and we will bring those 2 80,000-foot projects forward, but it has still nothing to do with this plan. It just makes us eligible for the funding.
Yes, ma'am.
Catherine.
Mojave adopted theirs Thursday.
Catherine Efford, Floyd, California City. Mr. Mayor, council, members of the public, we have gone way, way, way beyond what it says on this piece of paper. Okay? This is what it says. It is business for our city to adopt a resolution that says, hey, this is a good thing. We want it. We want it. You want it. All the other agencies want it. I don't want the state managing our water. I can tell you that right now. That just doesn't work. This is what it says. A formal acceptance of the Fremont Basin Integrated Regional Water Management Plan. The recommendation is the council discuss and adopt the resolution number 03-19-2781 of the City Council of the City of California City supporting and adopting the 2019 Fremont Basin Integrated Regional Water Management Plan. All we're trying to do, or all the City Council needs to do, is to say, yes, we need a resolution that supports and adopts what all this other work that other people have done, including Mr. Pratt. This is not, if we had paid for the study to come up with this plan, we would be in debt up to our eyeballs. This has been paid for by other regions, other areas, and the state. It's a good plan. It brings all of these regional water areas together in one plan that the state can say, okay, you want a portion, you want a portion, and you want a portion. Has nothing to do with how much money we're going to get or not going to get, but we're certainly not going to want the city managing our water. Okay? Thank you. I mean the state. I'm sorry. I said city, right? Lord of mercy. We do not want the state of California managing our water basin. There's too much money from the developer, from the citizens of this city, and the city itself involved in our water basin. We don't want the state managing it. Thank you.
One note, and I've reported this before, that the draft was on the city's website, has been for months, and that this version was actually uploaded, I believe, a couple weeks ago, which was the final version after changes were requested by the state.
Anybody else? If not, coming back up here, you said you wanted to pull your motion?
Well, he made his after mine, so it's pulled yours, and then I can pull mine.
Okay. Done. Pulled. Mine's pulled.
So then what we're looking for, real simple, to, go ahead.
I just have a couple questions.
Go ahead.
I just want assurance from you that included, what in California City is included? Is it all 203.6 square miles or what?
We are not stuck or obligated to submit any water project through this group. We can go after any funding at any time to anything that we want to do, sewer or water. This is a management tool that the state said you will do. So we can still go after other funds that have nothing to do with the Department of Water Resources, or we can go through as a group through the whole region, which is something we did under the DAC. It was INYO, I believe, that took the lead, and the dollars that were allowed based on population and everything else, they took the lead in the $160,000 and took the lead through the whole region. That means every agency from here all the way to actually Susanville is the last northern district in the Lahontan Basin. So all of the agencies all the way down pooled together the resources for the DAC and were awarded. That's how we got the $160,000. That's coming down again real quick on the SB1 money that's being released for projects, the caller projects, which is coming out anytime now. Which this is what it affords us to be able to do without question from the state.
Group projects, in my opinion, always turn out better than solo projects, because when you have a collaboration of minds and ideas and just the kind of cooperation that goes on, it tends to yield better results. I think there's no reason we shouldn't be involved in this. This makes us eligible for money that we might miss the boat on otherwise. It's my city too. I don't want to miss the boat on $160,000 that we could use. So I'm all for this.
Yeah, and just a note, why we teamed with the Mojave region, the Lahontan region, excuse me, is it gave us a lot more voice at the Department of Water Resources, using all of the agencies working together, which is what those plans are about, and resourcing the money, and it was all split up how it would be anyway based on our population and size.
That being said, looking for a resolution number to adopt a resolution number 319-2781 of the City Council of the City of California City, supporting and adopting the 2019 Fremont Basin Regional Water Management Plan.
Motion.
First by motion by Councilman Lucinovich. Looking for a second. Second by Councilmember Johnson. Can we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Johnson? Lisenovich?
Aye.
Paris?
No.
Stump?
I'm going to vote no because I think we need to look, it's going to pass, but I think we still need to look into some of the fees that are charged. So, no.
Mayor McGuire?
Yes.
Motion carried.
New business 1, Alexander Contract Service, Finance Director.
It was on.
Just move it closer to you. Yeah. It's on.
It's on.
Let me start over.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and residents. Alexander Contract Services is our vendor that currently reads all of our water meters, and they sent notice to the city of a 5-cent increase for our meters, and we're looking at an increase of $218.95 per billing cycle going forward. Bring it to Council's attention just for approval and discussion.
Okay. Anybody from up here have any questions? Anybody?
Yeah, I do have a question. How many of our smart meters are in place, and how many are scheduled yet to be done, completed?
Couldn't tell you that off the top of my head. I reported on that about 2 months ago, I believe. We have the one zone, I think, totally, which was 9, and partial of 7 and 8 were complete. I'd have to give you a total count of how many meters in that, and I'd have to get that information from the meter.
I mean, can you make a fraction? What part of the town is
A large
smart?
section is complete. Everything to the north, everything to the west. It's city proper. Everything on the hill's complete. We're working in city proper right now. Everything around us has been complete.
And time frame for completion?
We purchased the whole last round of meters, which was approved last year in the budget. The goal is to have them done within the year's time, within this cycle, because we want to obviously get to that drive-by system.
And is it logical to assume that when we complete the smart meters, that we would take over the reading, meter reading on our own? So we might only have to tolerate the rate increases for a year.
Are we, since we're going to smart meters, are we taking the old meters and since they're valuable, taking the brass, recycling it, turning it, selling it or whatever, and taking the money and putting it back to pay for the smart meters?
Yes, we did, and actually we brought that to council some time ago, and all meters are sold and go back into the meter system.
Is there anybody from the public?
Mr. Mayor and Council, we have been a victim of Alexander's poor reading on at least 2 different occasions. And in the summer, when they gave us either a 0 or a 1 for usage, then the next month, because of the tiered system, we got some pretty ridiculous rates. I know there's many citizens in town. I don't believe that Alexander's deserves any raise whatsoever, whether it's for a month, whether it's for a year. As a matter of principle, they have not earned the right to request any rate. They have scared a number of seniors in our town that have gotten horrendous water bills that have come to City Hall thinking that they're going to be paying a $4,000 water bill. And as a matter of principle, their poor attention to detail, they do not deserve 1 cent of an increase for any amount of time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Just a note to that, a lot of times that, because they take photos of meters, a lot of time that has been the crews changing out meters in Alexander crossing paths. So you get a new meter installed with an old meter and paperwork hasn't been input into the system. you get a bad read. That's not everything, but that does happen because of how many meters we've been replacing.
Yes, sir.
Are they using the RFIDs to read these meters on the meters that are RFID equipped? Because my meter readings are all over the place, and I don't understand that. A person has the same lifestyle, uses the same amount of water, their meter reading shouldn't jump all over the damn place. Get rid of these folks. Get your own people to do it, and start it now and get it done right. Get rid of them. Save the $218. Thank you.
I agree with the last two speakers. Alexander does not deserve anything. In fact, they ought to be paying us for their untruths. What I mean by that is, how in the world are they reading the meters when they're covered with dirt, sand? They're just not doing it. We had the city doing it before, then we went to Alexander. Now Alexander's done a poor job, and now they're wanting a rate increase. And the other related question is this rate increase going to impact the ratepayers? That has not been answered nor asked. And that's my concern and question. Is it going to impact the ratepayers?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Coming back up here. Looking for a motion. Not unless anybody has any other questions. Any other questions? Okay, looking for a motion. We've discussed, and if we're going to approve the 5 cent per meter read rate increase. So the motion on the table is a 5 cent per meter read rate increase. That's the motion. Looking for a second.
One note, I will just tell you, there have been no requests since they've had that contract, which goes back a long time. And with the wages increased in California prevailing, or not prevailing, but just the wage increases is what prompted this. This is a very minimal increase. Their contract is overdue, and I do not want to renew a contract because we want to be able to pull the plug when we're ready to move forward.
No, the only problem I have with this is you get, if you look in the CC1, we refund money back to people all the time for disputes over water bills. And as Pastor Smith pointed out, and as Mr. Schaefer and Mr. Hudson, you know, we have to be very cognizant of the citizens of this city as far as, you know, if I were on a fixed income and I got a bill that normally I'm paying 54, whatever it is, my wife pays it, so I don't know what it is, but 54 a month, and then I get a bill that's 500 a month, and if I was on a fixed income, that would shock me. It'd probably depress me. It would, you know, really ruin my world, and we have to be cognizant of that.
Errors come, and I'm not going to throw in, it's not always Alexander that there's errors out there. It takes a lot of work, as I'm sure you know, when you're reading this many meters. I've had a $20,000 bill before also, which had nothing to do with here. So errors do happen. We're trying to eliminate it, and I think you guys all know that we've been working diligently to correct a lot of things. This is a minuscule dollar amount over all the years they've been here, and it will be absorbed within the system.
You know, I think that people, if they were able to come to one of the council meetings and talk to the people and explain their side, I think it would smooth out things, because, you know, people listening to us tonight, they're saying, some of them are probably saying, these guys are terrible. And if they, again, if they had a chance to come and talk to us, just like maybe if Waste Management or, you know, we've had different people come and talk to us. And once you listen to them and they explain their side, you say, okay, yeah, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt next time.
You know what the goal has been is moving to the electronics, which is a drive-by system, which will take a lot of the people error out of that. This isn't my only meter department I've ever had. I've had a lot bigger ones than what we have here, and the error rate should be less than 0.4% for your entire system, regardless of how big it is. But errors happen everywhere because you're dealing with people who read numbers in a very fast pace, and they do read them in a very fast pace. And I agree with all the things, which has promoted us why we picked up the program from 2006 and have continued to replace all the meters till we can get to an electronic system.
I'll second your motion, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Johnson? Lisanovich?
No.
Paris?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Stump?
Since I seconded, I have to go yes.
Mayor McGuire?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you, Council.
NB2, Equipment Lease Purchase. Public Works Director.
Mayor, City Council, and public. Staff has had requested proposals to replace a 580 class backhoe and a 710 class motor grader to be used on the city's water maintenance replacement projects and for the street department, roads, and right-of-way systems. We'll be replacing a 1991 K backhoe and a 1985 Champion 710 motor grader in the streets department. This equipment is necessary to manage productivity, repair cost, and safety of personnel. We have requested and received quotes, 3 quotes from Sequoia Equipment Company, Coastline Equipment, and Quinn Cat for a 580 class 4-wheel drive backhoe and a 710 motor grader as follows. The proposals include the full purchase price and or lease option, and I'm going after the lease option, the 3-year. The cost breakdown for the equipment, full purchase price and or 36-month lease, including taxes, are as follows. Case and Sequoia Equipment submitted a 580 SN backhoe purchase price 36 months at $3,088.28 for $105,373.13. 2019 Case 556C all-wheel drive 4B motor grader, $233,693.82 with the 6250.34 monthly lease. They have a government program which would afford a, if it was unfunded by council at a budget time, there's no further requirements required. The buyout and then a lease is $1. John Deere submitted for a 2019 310 SL backhoe, purchase price $106, $118.51, 36-month lease, $1314.25, a $63,480 buyout at the end of the lease. A 622G motor grader, 6-wheel drive, 36-month lease, $3,083.93 a month, or $92 a month, $190,000 buyout at the end. They have no out. Oh, excuse me, 6 month. If we had it 6 months, it can be turned back after a 6-month period of time. 2019 CAT 420 F2 was $111,157, 36-month lease, $3,330 or $46.38. The buyout was $251 at the end of the lease. There is no out on the lease. 36 on 2019 120 joystick motor grader, $289,060.50. 36-month lease payments was $8,706.31. The buyout at the end of the lease is $251. I had to turn the page. Excuse me. The leasing program allows us to cancel the contracts with Sequoia Company at any time. Coastline after 6 months. No further obligation. QuinCat had no cancellation under this lease agreement. The equipment was budgeted in 2018-19. A budget under Fund 51-51-15-740 and 27-44-11-740. Staff recommended Sequoia Equipment Company on the lease purchase for 3 years for $105,373.13, including taxes over 36 months for 2019 580 SN. Backhoe using Fund 51-15-740, and for 2019 case 556C all-wheel drive 4B motor grader for $233,693.82, including taxes over 36 months using Fund 27-44-11-740, and authorize the city manager to sign and execute the lease purchase contract.
Anybody from council have any questions?
And the only one that we save money that comes out lower than the lease, because if you add up all the lease costs, you come out a lot more money on every single one except the Case 856C all-wheel drive 4B motor grader. Everyone else is higher. And looking at leasing versus buying, if we buy it, we're able to depreciate it, you know, over 5 years or 3 years or whatever is normal for this type of equipment. But leasing, we won't. And especially, like I said, I don't understand why all the lease prices for these are more than buying it right out.
The city is not a tax-paying entity, so there is no benefit to depreciation. And so the benefit of the lease is that the city is able to keep its cash in hand to address other issues as they may arise, and there's no benefit as a result of depreciating it. It is a capital expense, which under the terms of governmental accounting shows up on our balance sheet, but it's not there's no value in depreciation that you would have if you were a private entity paying taxes.
Again, if this is the best, you know, like I said, one of them is a good deal, but the other ones are, to me, you're paying. And I don't know. Again, I don't lease items. Don't know how it works. But are we getting the same thing with the police cars that we leased and any other vehicles that we've leased from the city, or is this just?
This is, I don't remember. We probably paid it off when you came in. The last backhoe I did was on a 3-year, and actually was from Coastline. Was on a 3-year lease, which we ended up paying off the 4th year. So we were able to budget over a lot longer period of time. Plus the fact that there's an issue with it, we can give it back. So we actually have gained, and I've leased a lot of equipment over the years like this, just the fact of being able to do it over a longer period of time. And it's made sense if there's an equipment issue or problem to give it back, which I've done before. The plan is not to do that, but it's available to us, especially under the CASE program, because they have a very unique program which is afforded to government agencies to give it back if it's unfunded within a budget cycle. If something bad happened, it gives us a little more flexibility than having equipment we don't need. Right now, we were faced with a piece of equipment, the backhoe, that actually the fuel tank is part of the frame, and it's cracked. And the cab and everything would have to be pulled of roughly about $8,000, and I don't want to dump another $8,000 into a one or two backhoe, and we have two that are in that era that needs to be pulled off the front line. And we're renting a backhoe right now because I can't keep them up and running. So, and I want to get rid of that, and that will go back to United Rentals to get something on the front. And we're not going to get these overnight because actually the motor grader has to be built. So they're not just sitting on these.
The one over on Garibaldi, are we renting that one or is that one ours? Yeah, we're digging over
Is it a
there.
brand new case?
It looked fairly new.
We have a new John Deere. Everything else we have is considerably old. So if it's a not John Deere, it's the one we bought roughly over 4 years ago.
Any questions from the public? Seeing none, coming back up here, looking for a motion.
Can we make a comment first, or
Yes,
do you have a discussion
absolutely.
after the motion? I guess in other times, I would have asked you if you looked at used prices to see what that was like. Did you do competitive financing? But realistically here, we're talking about a 28-year-old backhoe, and if we've kept that in service, the whole question about financing it and even the cost of it becomes kind of secondary. If we can keep something like this running for 28 years, that's the backhoe. I think we're doing great. If the grader is 34 years old and going out of service and we buy something now, I think it's going to be a asset for the city. So why buy used? You know,
These are
just-
long-term, and I will muddy that a little bit because I will be bringing back also that question after I have a discussion with city manager on two pieces of equipment local that are used that are a lot newer than even our newest piece of equipment, but I'll bring that back. So there is some value in that, but it's rare. Because this is long-term equipment, it's not a 5-year piece of life like a police car. You get a lot more years of use out of this.
That's what I had.
Any other comments? Okay, looking for a motion to approve Sequoia Equipment Company, Inc. lease purchase option for $105,373.13, including taxes, over 36 months for 2019 Case 580SN backhoe, using Fund 51-15-740, and 2019 Case 856C AWD 4B motor grader for $233,693.82, including taxes over 36 months, using Fund 27-4411-740, and authorize the city manager to sign and execute the lease purchase contracts. That is the motion. Looking for a second.
You're making the motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Okay, first and second. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Lisinowicz?
Aye.
Paris?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Stump?
Yes.
Mayor McGuire?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you, council.
NB3, proposed OHV clerk position, Administrative Tech OHV Sanders.
Okay, could I have permission to mention a community event that's coming up before I make my staff presentation?
Go ahead.
Is that okay? The Operation Community will be hosting 4 cleanups in April. It will be the 6th, the 13th, the 20th, and the 27th. There will be 2 disposal sites in the city. Saturdays, and then on the 27th, there's a special disposal day for hazardous waste that will be held at the airport. And I just wanted to mention that before I got to the staff report. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Okay. Mayor and Council, I'm bringing to you a request for the hiring of one full-time OHV clerk. The off-highway vehicle recreation program is multifaceted with both grant funding from the OHMVR division of California Parks and the city's OHV permits program. There are two separate parts of the program, and they require full attention on a year-round basis. Presently, I have 3 seasonal part-time sales positions, which are paid out of the permit sales revenue. 2 of these positions are filled at this time, and that so complete work on both parts of the program can be facilitated. Staff is requesting combining 2 of the part-time positions into one full-time job. The full-time position will assist with grant administration and will manage the permit sales and records. The job description is attached to the staff report for reference. In short, this position will assist with all facets of the OHV recreation program with a special focus on the permit sales, record keeping, and will timely create the requested permit sales reports. The salary will come out of Fund 294219-110, which is the OHV permits program. Also, as an indirect cost out of the ground operations grant, Fund 164235-110, and as an indirect cost out of the law enforcement grant, 164234-110. The full-time salary shows an increase of approximately $6,704 over the current combined 2 part-time positions salary of $27,510.
I've got just a couple questions.
Sure.
In reference to ground ops and law enforcement, what exactly is indirect cost?
Indirect cost on these particular grants allows for administration of the grants. There's time, it takes time to do the record keeping and tracking, plus the submission of reimbursements, and it's considered an indirect cost. We're allowed 15% of the grant to attribute to indirect cost.
Okay, so do we have a dollar value or a ballpark figure of that dollar value?
I don't have it divided between the $34,214, but seeing as we're looking at just a few more months for the permits budget that we have right now, which will end June 30th, and the ground operations and law enforcement grant, which don't end until September 30th, there is funding available. Certainly I can get you a more complete breakdown, but I don't have it right this second.
Mr. Feinstein, there are funds in both those accounts, correct? Okay. If I can make a suggestion, and when we get funds, or we get a fund account, if the staff reports can show what's in that account, so we don't have to stop and research, and it makes sense. We have to cover so much material in a short period of time. That would help out tremendously. So that way we know. And then if there's an indirect cost, which I would be happy with just a ballpark figure, just so I know.
Sure.
That would be absolutely appreciative.
Happy to do it. Happy to do it.
That's all I've got. Anybody else?
Yes. You're going to combine 2 of the part-time positions into one full-time position. There'll be 1 additional part-time position then?
There is currently 2 part-time employees who are manning Boraxville Park with the permit sales on the weekends. This person who would take on the full-time position would continue to work at Boraxville Park and would also be of help in the office with the permit sales record keeping and learning the grant administration as well.
So you're really not in net hiring anyone new. You're just converting one of the part-time positions into a full-time position.
Correct.
Okay, fine.
I'm just asking to create the full-time position.
Anything, sir? Ma'am? Well, we've got to bring it to the public first. Anybody from the public wish to address us? Seeing none, we'll bring it back here, looking for a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, I copied, he got you on the draw.
Second.
Okay, so, Mayor Pro Tem, Stump makes the motion. Councilmember Paris seconds it. This is dealing with money. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Listenovich.
Aye.
Paris,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Stump,
Yes.
Mayor McGuire.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Okay, NB4, Memorandum of Understanding MOU for California City Police Association and California City Miscellaneous Unions. Mr. Stockwell.
Mayor, members of council, I'm very pleased to be bringing to you the finalized memorandums of understanding between the city's miscellaneous employees and the police employees. After negotiating with these two bargaining units, we came to a mutual agreement on the contracts as they are presented to you. The key elements of the contract provide in the police department for sworn officers a 20% increase the first year, a 5% increase the second year, and a 2.5% increase the third year, for a total of 27.5%. For the miscellaneous employees, first year at 8%, second at 2%, and the third at 2%. We also reached agreement on pulling the health benefits out of each of the individual contracts and creating a combined bargaining unit between the city and its three associations to look at health insurance costs on an annual basis, and which allows us then to address those changes as they're occurring. It's a very volatile field, and all three of the bargaining units agreed to do that. And so included in this contract would be the recognition of the city and the unions creating that joint project to go forward. And so we are pleased to report that we came to agreement. There was lots of give and take in the process, but it was amicable, and we feel like we are making some real progress. The reason the fire contract is here is because there's just some clarification of the final details and incoming understanding and exchanging between their attorney and ours on getting the final language. But we have a firm tentative agreement with them as well that should be ready for the next council meeting. So we recommend the council approve these contracts and authorize me to execute these MOUs.
Okay, sir. Any questions?
Yes. Somehow I was given information that suggested that the clerical staff in the police department has a different pay raises than what we have presented on the cover page.
Yeah, they receive the same thing as the miscellaneous employees.
Is there parity in job descriptions inside City Hall with the police department?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't see the chief of police on here,
Chief of police is not a member of a bargaining unit.
so he's not going to get a raise?
That's going to be up to the council.
Okay.
There are no management salaries included in any bargaining unit.
And so our animal control, code enforcement, community service officers, and jailers are going to be miscellaneous employees? Is that what I'm understanding here?
They have agreed to the same package as the miscellaneous employees because that's how they've always been treated. They're not a member of the Miscellaneous Employees Association. They are represented by the Peace Officers Association. But with the recognition that their salaries and benefits are tracked along with the rest of the miscellaneous employees.
one more question.
Yes, sir.
Is police dispatchers, are they getting the same 8% or is it different for them?
Well, dispatchers are non-sworn positions, and so they receive it's classified in here on page 11 of their contract as civilian employees. And the dispatchers fall in that category.
So they will be at 8%, or are they getting a higher
At
rate?
8%.
My page 11 only has things about PERS. Ship.
Councilman Paris.
It's only PERS.
Yes.
I referred to the wrong page, I'm sorry.
So question I have, are jailers, custody officers sworn positions?
Jailers, community service officers and the jailers are sworn positions, yes.
So are they getting the 20%?
Yes.
I didn't see it. I haven't been able to tell exactly where, if you look at page 5 under B, Article 4B, which ones there are sworn positions?
Page 5.
Yes, under the MOU.
Got it.
You get the breakdown somewhere else.
The sworn positions of the police officers, the jailers, are all sworn. The civilian positions are the dispatchers, the records clerk, the admin people, and OHV, and animal control. Code enforcement falls under civilian as well.
Community service officer.
Community service officer is a sworn position. It's a police officer position.
And you said dispatchers are not sworn.
No, they're not.
And no department heads. Question, have any department heads received any raises?
No, department heads have not received raises in this MOU of understanding.
And as I think it was the city manager who said that the council gives the department heads their raises.
Yes. He will, yeah, the city manager and the police chief and the fire chief are at that level.
And Public Works?
Yes, yes, I'm sorry, Public Works
and Finance
Human
Director.
Resources and Finance Director.
Okay.
Anybody from the public?
Mr. Mayor, Council, I champion the fact that the Kern County Sheriff's Department gave an 18% raise. California's giving a 20%. California City's giving a 20% raise for those that protect us. They deserve all of this and more. If they've agreed to this, I would encourage you. It doesn't need to be a whole lot of discussion, in my estimation. those that protect us, they have been woefully underpaid for some time. And I like to say they're still underpaid for what they do in our community. But I think it's a good sign, and that 20% is significant. Would love to see them get more than that, but I would encourage you to support this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Seeing none, bringing it back up here. Looking for a motion.
Well, before you make that motion, I'd like to add the chief of police to this. He's sworn officer. He works the streets probably more than a lot of these other officers, so I'd like to have him added to this MOU, that he receives the same raise as the rest of the officers.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
that action is not before the council. The police chief cannot be placed into into the police bargaining unit. If the council would like us to place that item on a future agenda, we can bring it back for action, but it cannot be part of this labor contract.
Right now, that can be brought up at council agenda time. So looking for a motion right now to approve the two MOUs.
Motion to approve.
Second.
First by Lucinovich, second by Johnson. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Lissinovich?
Yes.
Paris?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Stump?
Yes.
Mayor McGuire?
Yes.
5-0.
Okay, going to NB 5. City Attorney.
This is just, I just can't get my shit together.
Mayor and council, this concerns.
Could we keep it down a little, please?
There are 13 properties located in the Lakeview Mobile Home Park which were identified as properties which were nuisances or potentially nuisances and needing abatement. This was brought before you previously related to a contractor to help perform those. We have taken those to court. The judge wanted us to follow a more precise procedure, make sure we follow every step in our code in establishing those as nuisances. And so we have been doing that. We're in the middle of that process. We're still awaiting the final official rulings from the hearing officer, which that should occur very shortly, at which point we would go back to the court and then seek to get the abatement warrants that would be needed in order to perform the work. As part of that, there have been a couple properties which have indicated that they might want to just give the properties to the city. The city would not need to get an abatement warrant in such case, and would then just perform the work. And it would be transferred to the city, and in exchange for us doing this work on the property to clean it up. And so this item is put on the agenda just merely to get your input on whether or not this would be something you'd want to do. It's not required. Either way, we're going to go to the court and seek the abatement warrants, assuming the nuisances go through the process and are established. But this is just on the agenda so that you can determine whether, if any of these 13 properties come forward and say that they'd like to transfer them to the city, to authorize us to prepare the necessary documents to accept that, assuming that they have basically waived all rights to that property, authorizing basically the city manager to sign a deed that would transfer the title to the city, and they would be waiving any rights against the city. And with that, that's for your discussion. Maybe the city manager has something to add.
Yeah, I think it's clear. One of the things we need to be reminded of is this is not a process where the city is going to make any money. And so our intent here is to spend as little as possible. When we go through the abatements of all of the properties the council's authorized us to spend a substantial amount of money to accomplish that. In the end, none of those property owners will step forward and pay off the $28,000+ that it's going to cost to clean up their properties, and ultimately they'll go into default, and at some point there will be a tax sale, and at that point we would get the property. Each one of those steps is going to cost time and money, and so when someone steps forward and says, look, I'll just walk away to deed you the property, it saves us a substantial expense because the property comes to the city. Once those 13 parcels are cleaned up in the trailer park, they then become marketable, not for $28,000 by any means, but they do become marketable, and a new mobile home or whatever the current new code is allowed by HUD could be brought in and placed on the property. We could see the improvement occur as a result of that. And so by simply allowing us to take title to these properties, it speeds up that process and avoids the cost of going through all of the placing the lien on the property after we finish the demolition, then exercising the lien, bringing it to a tax sale, ultimately in the end to get title to the property, but after we spent probably a few thousand more dollars going through the process of placing a lien and then bringing it to a tax sale. So we recommend this as an option that allows us when we have a property owner. In many cases, we have no one to talk to on these. We have notified people over multi-years and gotten no response. And so in some cases, property owners are dead and the family won't respond, or there is no family. And so the properties are delinquent for multiple reasons. But this is a cost-saving measure for us, not a way to make any money by any means.
Question, I have a couple of questions for the attorney. We approved $498,000 to remove 17 properties. We did one, from what I understand. There's 13 there, so what about the other 3 that are missing? Okay, so the 400, so that takes me back to the first thing. The contract that we signed for $498,000, what is, how is that going to work as far as us, if they don't demo something, since we signed a contract for that, are we going to be able to get our money back or what?
Per parcel, yeah. So if we don't do one, then we don't pay it back.
Okay, and so the 3 though, they've resolved it, they've fixed their property, or what? Or what's going on with the 3? Okay, I'd like to know that information. And then I would like to also, when you get back to us, I'd like to know the disposition of the $498,000, how much we're going to spend, how much the city will get back, and to what fund.
It won't be a matter of the city getting anything back, we just won't spend it. Because the bid is for each individual property, and so they have a fixed price for each one. So if we do less than we anticipated, we simply won't spend the money, it'll stay in the account.
In the reserves.
No, we move the money from reserve to an expenditure account.
Okay, let us know
Finish
that
that,
account.
that could go back to the reserve.
That's what I'd like to see, and I'm sure the council would like to see that money go back to the reserves.
Do you have any questions? None?
That was my question essentially on I thought it was 20 trailers. But is there a timeline? We've done one and it's been several meetings, so I'm just wondering how slowly is this process going to move?
Yeah, we did run into a problem with the judge, who we had a new judge come in. Previously, there was a process in place they were comfortable with granting these. They they just happened to take a very hard line on it, and they said, no, we want you to go back, we want you to make sure all these, we were explaining, some of these are deceased individuals, and they're like, nope, we want you to give notice, we want you to make sure you're doing all these things, make sure that these people all have notice, which, that's fine, and so we're doing that, but that just requires making sure that we go through that process and document it, and then we're gonna go back to make sure that he doesn't reject this agreement.
So a timeline on, I'm looking at the final done deal. Everybody's happy. The demolition's done.
I'll have to look it up. I have
I don't need
Kathy
an
in my office, but I believe within 2 weeks we would probably go. It depends. We're still finalizing the determination. There's an appeal process there. We're in the waiting for that determination, and then we will go to the court the moment that's finalized. So that would be within 2 weeks of that.
Okay.
And once we have the abatement warrant, we can act on it right away.
Deeds of the property of the city, we can begin on that as soon as we have the paperwork executed.
Questions?
Yes, on the 271 Desert Breeze, I believe that was the first one we did, that we had the warrant. Do we know when that warrant expired? Did we get it done in time, in a timely fashion, or did we have to go back and redo it?
No, it was done and has been completed and reported back to the court.
Because I noticed that the wall was still standing for months and months and months, and now all of a sudden it's disappeared. Can you tell us what transpired with that?
The contractor failed to finish that portion of the project and was called back to complete it, and they finally came back.
Was that done after the warrant was, after everything was turned back in, or before the warrant was done?
It was done afterwards.
Afterwards? Okay, thank you.
Of these 13 that we're showing here, how many of these are going to be basically self-surrenders? So if we can get 3, then the other 10 are, we'll have to do by warrant. Is there any possibility of getting any more than those 3? Okay, as far as the inspections, the city's going to have to pay for all those?
And the reason for that, really, if we're going to take possession of it, I want to make sure that we've inspected it, that there's no issue on that property.
Well, I think if we're taking possession of it, there's not going to be any issue because there won't be any residents there.
Right, but I'm more concerned with maybe some other hazardous material or something.
Can we get the addresses of the 3, or do you want to put that out?
I don't, do you know which ones they are? No, I'm not sure.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody from the public? Nobody from the public coming back up here looking for a motion?
Just one thing, we had all 17 before. If we can, you can say this one was demoed. These 13, of the 13, 3 of them, they're going to deed over to the city. The other 10 this, and the other 3, this is what happened. I'd like just a complete history of the whole 17.
Take a motion? Since you...
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Okay. We have a motion to accept any of the nuisance properties subject to an inspection agreement signed by the property owners, city attorney's office to prepare agreement. got a motion, looking for a second.
A second.
Got a first and second. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Lissinovich?
No.
Paris?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Stump?
Yes.
Mayor McGuire?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Okay, now we're moving to MB6, which wasn't on the program, but until the beginning of the show, and it's going from CC4.
It's mine.
Yours, sir.
On the background for CC4, this is our report. As noted in the last council meeting, the city has been recruiting for a community development director since December of 2018. The position was advertised with jobs available for 2 months, posted on Indeed from December 2018 to current, and the posted on the city's website. As a result of the recruiting efforts, the city received a total of 2 resumes, and neither applicant was qualified for the position. Consequently, on the recommendation of the city manager, council approved the appointment of Alexander Matthew to serve as the community development director as part-time CalPERS annuitant. I'm looking at this, and this isn't the only position that we've been looking to fill, and the idea of actually going to CalPERS retirees to fill those positions seems to be something that I think we should be pursuing, where that can be a way of filling jobs that are not being served by the city at this time, and I'm speaking particularly of the police department. I have no problems with approving the resolution and which is the final step in the process for the council to adopt the resolution for Matthew Alexander's position. But I think that we can also state a policy for the city that the city is going to look for retirees under the CalPERS system, where they can aid the city with their experience and their knowledge, and provide bodies that we do not have and are sorely in need of in critical functions inside the city. And I would like to make that a policy decision, that we include CalPERS annuitants as a potential job source and seek them out as well.
Well, we had one problem when we had HR, and we had her working the 960s, and CalPERS notified this city that she could no longer do that. And
You mean we got our one and only?
well, we had that happen a while back, and CalPERS stepped in and said no. I don't know what's going to happen with this. I don't know. CalPERS, they basically said if things get, if it can be dealing with their retirement, that they can step in and cancel their retirement because they've worked X amount of hours. CalPERS has that say, so the city does not. That is just one of the one of the outside influences when we make a decision.
Mayor, if I could address.
Yes, sir.
The situation that you're addressing is the city can hire any CalPERS retiree as long as they don't work more than 960 hours in a year. That's always been the case. To be able to do what we're doing with the community development director position, CalPERS requires this particular resolution because we want to be able to work the person for more than 960 hours in the year. One of the conditions of that is that we continue to recruit for the community development director position, which we are doing. This allows us for up to 18 months to employ a part-time community development director without danger of the 960-hour limit. And so in each case where we would seek to overcome the 960-hour limit, we have to adopt a similar resolution, and it would be a position that we have shown we cannot fill for us to be able to get past the 960 hours. But as long as we don't work CalPERS retirees for more than 960 hours, there's no action required with CalPERS. That's simply built into their regulations. So So that's the difference here. And so what we had, when I asked the council for permission to make the appointment, which you gave, this is simply the last step on that process. But we can, at any point, hire CalPERS annuitants, as long as we don't work them more than 960 hours, and also pay them according to the rules that it says they have to be paid.
And all I'm asking for at this point, that be part of our policy for positions that we are having difficulty filling. If you know, in 3 months we can't find a planner, I suggest we have similar situations in other departments, and that may be the only solution we have to resolve our problems of staffing in those departments. So, Mr. Attorney, how do, the question here is to approve a resolution, but I'm asking to extend the policy forward.
I think because that's not the item agendized, that probably the best thing to do would be to, based on what you're saying, agendize it for the next meeting.
Okay.
Agendize a discussion about a policy related to seeking out opportunities to fill positions with
Annuitants. Okay.
in the short interim, because there is a limit on them. They can't go forever, even though they are doable. PERS won't let you continue to use them over long periods of time.
I'm looking at the California public law thing, and they can work. I did the math, and they can work 2.3 hours, 2.3 days a week. So if we had, like, say, we didn't get this approved for Mr. Alexander, he could still work like 2 days one week and 3 days another week, like that. We could just engineer it so it would be part-time, but it could go a whole year. Again, 960 hours in a year. Yeah, I understand that. But it just, like I said, it says 960 hours per year. It does not say 1 year or 2 years in the regulation.
What you're looking at is the expanded provision for all PERS annuitants and the 960-hour limit. This reason they to do.
Oh, I understand. I'm just talking on what Councilman Lasinovich talked about, and that's in other areas like police and so on. So we can agendize that for next meeting and discuss it.
So, anybody else up here have any?
Yeah, and just to clarify, I believe PERS is the one who told us that we needed to adopt it.
Anybody else? Anybody from the public?
This seemed, Al Hudson, it seemed like a darn good idea. This is something that I've been advocating of allowing retired police sergeants to come back and fill the positions that are sorely needed and such. So adopting of a policy that would allow that would be absolutely a win-win situation. Now, as far as it not being allowable on the agenda because it's not specific, I believe that the Brown Act allows you to discuss things that are related, and the policy is directly related to what you're talking about policy. So yes, I am correct, Counselor. Thank you.
Coming from somebody who always harps on me about following the Brown Act, you're right, and I have allowed them to discuss it generally, but to act on it would be different. And that's we are. So I'm just trying to be clear here. Agendize it for our next meeting to act on it.
But it can be agendized by agreement,
Yeah.
Counselor. So you can do it.
Do it on the next one. Yeah, there's going to be 3, 4. Okay.
I didn't think I'd live long enough to see that. My name's Ilona Eubank. I certainly think that hiring retirees who bring back a lot of knowledge and different fields and occupations and job descriptions is a good idea. My concern is hiring back people that are retired, that are older and or retired for age and or retired because they are not physically able perhaps anymore to do the job. I would hate to see us end up in another lawsuit because we've hired somebody back who may be a danger to the position they're hired back for, whether or not they have lots of knowledge. Thank you.
Christy Munt. As a retiree, there's no way I would ever want to go back to work. And I think our city needs to look at what we're offering people for these jobs. Again, we just gave our police officers a pay raise, and that's something we have to look into. But if I was a retiree, there's no way you could offer me enough money to go back to work. I don't want to do 40 hours a week. I don't want to do 12 hours a week. And I just think the majority of those people that are retired CalPERS, my father retired CalPERS, he worked at San Diego State. And he didn't want to go back to work either. And I don't blame them. So if you can find somebody that wants to do it, great. I do agree they have wonderful knowledge, they have the experience, but you have to find somebody that really wants to do it, and they shouldn't have to be worrying about working 900 hours a year if they're retired. That's why you retire, so you can enjoy your retirement. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Council, no offense to Christy, but I don't like to crochet. Well, I know, and you spend a lot of advertising with that vehicle, and but I've had opportunity to see Mr. Alexander in operation. I appreciated don't like what you agreed on, but I appreciate the presentation. We know exactly what the land is. He obviously has a lot to offer the city. When we have law enforcement officers that retire in their 50s or their 60s, we don't want to. Jack LaLanne was here, and if you know who he is, then that means that you're old. But if Jack LaLanne was here, then he would be dropping and doing some push-ups. We have some folks that have a lot of experience, and if we can use them, then I would encourage you to make it a policy to use them and save the city some money. Not everybody, when they retire, Mr. Alexander obviously loves our beautiful town, and he's planning to move here, I'm sure. And but I would encourage you to make it a matter of policy and get the most out of those that have something to offer us. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, we're a little off track. Anybody else needs, in reference to the recommendations on the resolution? Not seeing any, bringing it back up here. Looking for a motion to adopt a resolution 3-19-2778 authorizing the appointment of a CalPERS as the interim community development director.
Make that motion.
Second.
Have a first by Paris, second by Lucinovich. Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Lucinovich?
Aye.
Paris?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Stump?
I just have to add my comment to what they said before I say anything. As 66 years, I think that there's a lot for retired people. Retired once, retired twice. I'm retired twice and still working. So definitely yes, Mr. Alexander.
Mayor McGuire?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, going now to public business from the floor. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons desiring to address the City Council on any matter not on this agenda and over which the City Council has jurisdiction. Please state your name for the record and limit your time to 3 minutes. Please be curious, polite, and respectful. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Charles Schaefer. I have some documents I'd like to hand out to the Mayor Pro Tem and the 3 councilmen. May I approach?
If you could give them to the city clerk, please.
723. First question is, was 14-723 California City Ordinance number prohibiting the use of medical cannabis, was that a mandatory ordinance or was it voluntary compliance? My second question is 14-723. Since the ordinance identifies penalties of legal actions and restraining orders, I understand the restraining order. I do not understand where the restraining order comes between the patient and the city. Could you please explain the restraining order? My third question, since 14-723 specifically talks about medical cannabis, the cultivation and use, and the prohibition of, and 14-723 identifies neurological and psychological disorders of chronically and terminally ill persons of California City, whom other than the patient and or his caretaker was this ordinance targeted? Fourth question, since 14-723 identifies neurological and psychological disorders, were you qualified, Mr. McGuire, on the 1st of April to diagnose and treat neurological disorders, headaches, and seizures, TMJ? Second, were you qualified to diagnose and treat psychological disorders? The question also goes to Christian Bettenhausen, since you drafted 14-723. Were you qualified to diagnose and treat diagnose and treat neurological and psychological disorders, or was Patrick Bohannon qualified, who authorized the ordinance to diagnose and treat medical, neurological, and psychological disorders? May I please have answers? I reserve the time. I have 4 things I'd like to read. Ms. Johnson, Mr. Paris, Mr. Stompin, and Dr. Lasinovich, you have copies of some of the things I put up there. I'm going to read. One of the things I'm going to read is about a 13-year-old boy.
Mr. Schaefer, your time's up, sir.
Excuse me. You're under arrest. Do you understand? You'll notice the individuals that were given those documents have a police report. Do you know at 4:20 this afternoon that police report had not been filed for abuse of the elderly? And that's mandated to report it. No excuses, council members. I don't care. This is my First Amendment right. I'm placing you under citizen's arrest. Mr. Bettenhausen, you're under arrest for violation of 664-187, premeditated attempted homicide. Practicing medicine without a license. 5 counts. Bonnie McCulley, Sherry Bell, Charles Schaefer on the 1st of April 2014, regular scheduled meeting minutes. Don Schaefer,
Yes,
as well
it's
as
done.
Charles Cook.
Please
You
take
should
him
know
out.
his name. You should know his name.
Would you please go ahead and...
Here, listen, the mayor,
Yes, sir.
he's up, his time.
His time is up, yes.
Ask him to take his seat. Let's go ahead. Just tell him he
Okay.
needs to take his seat.
Come on, folks.
You have responsibility to report
Your
this.
time.
You know that.
It's duly noted. Let's go.
Come on.
Let's go.
You know that,
Fine.
Dr. Lasinovich. You know that, Mr. Stump. You know that, Ms. Johnson.
Either step outside. Come on. Let's go.
Do you have an NP at your jail?
Who?
An NP. Nurse practitioner
But I need you to
that
step
provides medication for
Come
the
ask me
prisoners.
outside.
Mr. McGo,
Come ask me outside.
Sir.
Have one, huh?
just recess the.
Okay.
I would suggest you all
Yeah.
start thinking about what you're going to do with it.
Public business from floor is recessed for right now.
I
Okay, we're now putting public business from the floor back on. Next.
Good evening again, Al Hudson. I have several items. First, I'd like to know why this council refuses to discuss or analyze the efforts and work of myself and J.M. Powers on our analysis of the financial statements and public works, because those are very, very in-depth, and we believe that we are more qualified than the persons holding those positions. Why are they not discussed? Next is I did a public records request on information on the Huizar settlement. I asked when it was on the agenda, and it was not on any agenda that I found. And was still, but I did receive a copy of the settlement. But that's it, with no facts. The next item is I've asked the Public Works Director to repair the Grand Canyon right there on 99th and the frontage road. You can't turn left and you can't turn right on 99th without falling into that Grand Canyon. And the next item is the city council procedure that Mayor McGuire drafted. In that, he cited various penal code sections, more specifically Penal Code 403, and that deals with disturbances at the city council meetings. I ask, in fact, I don't ask, I demand that that be pulled, because it's not in compliance with the California Supreme Court. That the exact citation is 1 Cal 3rd 930, and this is a totally in-depth analysis of Penal Code 403, and it also talks about on line 8 here, and he says, we recognize, of course, that because the threat of sanctions may deter almost as potently as the application of sanctions. So that is the basis, and that is what the court said. So therefore, you have to, as a matter of law, remove the reference to penal code sections in your modification. Now, the next thing is having public comment at the very end of the meetings. I did my research, and San Diego tried the same thing, and they said that is a deterrent of the First Amendment because you're limiting the public comment. My time is up.
Yes,
Thank you.
Yes,
and
it is.
Counselor, if you'd like a copy of this, I'll email it to you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else?
Mayor, council members, and staff, most of all, citizens. I have 3 comments and 2 questions, and I would appreciate it if you would wait till I'm finished before responding to any of them. I clicked on the city's page, and then on the city connection, and then on the municipal code, and it shows 2 lines of coded references in the words no such file or directory. If you could please remove that. There's another place to get to the municipal code, but so that people don't have to mess with that. The second is code enforcement is under the broad umbrella of public safety. Measure C was specifically passed to remedy the needs of public safety. Therefore, money should be spent to hire more code enforcement officers or make sure that our codes that are on the books are being enforced. Title 5, Chapter 1, Article 2, Section 5 is not being enforced. The citizens want accountability for the monies that we were promised would be paid for our safety. Third, I and others have taken pictures of graffiti on city property. Several pictures that I took on city streets are written in bright yellow paint. They point in directions, they have arrows, and one reference faces in several directions, probably claiming territory. This is getting beyond the pale. My questions. Are public comments selected at random to be posted in the minutes? If the public is going to be required to give our names for the sake of placing them in public record, then all should be posted. Last council meeting minutes were not correct. Second, if a council person or citizen requests that an item be agendized for public comment and council's vote, can the city manager or the mayor refuse to agendize the item?
You're asking me on the last question. The manner in which an item is agendized, and I deal with this, I'm actually dealing with it in another city, is really within the council's discretion to determine. Of course, subject to whatever's in the code. So, in some cities, they will have the city manager place items on the agenda, or the mayor. In other cities, it's city manager or the mayor, or any two council members. In others, I've found more recently, in actually doing a survey, some require that they put it on the agenda first and have a majority vote for it, which actually slows things down, but it does require that the matter come up and be voted on. So it's really in the council's discretion as to what kind of policy, as to how items get placed on the agenda. You can adopt a policy according to what you think is best.
I was told by the previous mayor that the mayor and the mayor pro tem could, because I wanted to put something on. I asked to have it put on, and I was told that she told me that she didn't want it on, and she said good luck on asking the mayor pro tem, and so I never got that item on. So again, we can't be, if that's been the tradition here, and as Ms. Eubanks said, it's not in our city code, because I've looked for it and it's not in our municipal code. If the policy that we've adopted in the past has been the mayor and the mayor pro tem for the people of us up here, then we need to continue that unless we expand it. And I wouldn't mind expanding it to allow any council member to agendize an item. But currently, again, the tradition, as explained to me by the previous mayor, has been the mayor and the mayor pro tem.
Should add, the city that was looking at the question does currently have a policy of any council member putting an item on the agenda. The issue there was that there's 4 council members that really don't like what that one council member keeps putting on the agenda. So the question is, should we have to discuss this item when it's clear that others are not wanting to discuss it? Now, maybe yes, there is. There's a reason for that, but that's what they're going to contemplate, and whether or not you should have at least, say, 2 council members, or maybe a majority agree to it, or only certain individuals. That bring that up. We can bring that up to another.
Okay, that.
City manager typically has to have that freedom to add items to the agenda, because he knows kind of what needs to be discussed.
Can the city manager refuse to agendize an item if a council member or more than one, or a mayor wants to agendize?
If the council sets a policy that says that the mayor can put it on, or 2 council members can put it on, then no, the city manager could not avoid that.
Thank you. Answer to the first question regarding public comments selected at random to be posted in the minutes. I'll clarify. We're asked to come up and say our names because it's supposed to be, you're supposed to know who we are, and the public's supposed to know who we are. I will admit I have never read our minutes. I read our agendas and so forth. So I decided to read the minutes the last several times, and last time only, I forget, let's say 4 people said so-and-so said such and such from the public. Why doesn't it say whoever comes up and says something said such and such? That's my question. Maybe the city clerk could respond?
either I didn't have complete notes, but I don't just pick and choose whose comments go on there, so I can be more attentive and make sure that you guys all, get named, but it's not intentional.
I just wondered how it worked, because
I do my best.
Oh, I know you do your best. I'm not questioning how well you work. I just want to know how it works. Okay.
Usually
Thank you
it's
very
well.
much.
Thank you. Anybody else? That was one I'm sorry I felt it needed to be addressed. Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, Council, this probably is not the best night to go and make this request, but we have a number of seniors in our community. We have folks that have never addressed the council before, and if putting public comment at the end, if that is to try to speed up the meetings, that is at the expense of the public being able to talk. And I know that we have seniors who have to leave when a meeting goes very long, and they want to address the council. And I think it would be very honorable to put back the public comment to the beginning, that somebody can come. When somebody is receiving a presentation, they don't have to wait to the end of the meeting, but they get to go and get whatever they're going to be presented at the beginning of the meeting. And I think it's would be very fair to the public to put public comment at the beginning as it was. If you're trying to speed up the meeting, if somebody's going to stick around for the entire meeting for public comment, they're probably going to comment on a number of other things, and it may cause them to say, you know what, I had to come back to City Council and make comments, and you may be having a lot more comments that you want. So there had to have been a reason why it was moved to the back. I want to tell you, I appreciate your respect to the public as you have chaired the meetings, and you've been very respectful to the public. Our councilman's very respectful to the public, and I believe the majority of the public has been very respectful to this council, and I would encourage you to move the public comment back to the beginning to honor the citizens' opportunity to speak. Thank you, sir.
Christy Munt, and guess what? I disagree with Mr. Smith. Yeah, surprise. I think the agendas are going wonderfully. Here it is 8:45, and you're finishing public comment. The last two meetings have gone well. The one on the 12th, we were out of here by 8:30. So I, as myself, being a senior citizen, make it a point to come, and now that they are faster, getting done by 9 o'clock is easy for just about anybody to make it to a meeting. And if you don't want to sit through the whole meeting, you can watch online or find out when public comment is going to come up, and come on down and do your public comment and go home. So thank you for rearranging it. I like the fact that we don't have to go through department head meetings things first. I read them online. It works out much better. Thank you very much.
Anybody else?
Hi, my name is John Sperry. I just bought a house here recently, so this is my first meeting. Doing your primary agenda first and then taking up everything else would seem to be the most practical thing. As far as being here and listening to it, the one thing that the sound level on the microphones, this guy, I can understand. The previous lady, it was about like this, and I could barely hear it. And in the background, when I'm listening, it's talking about like this, and I can just barely understand and I have a really hard time understanding what's going on. But I wanted to be here and be part of the community. So partly it's just the sound level. It sounds like the discussion is right here and it's sort of periphery in the back, and it's really hard to get. Just general comment, no complaint or anything else.
We're working on that, sir.
Okay, thank you.
And welcome to California City. Okay, anybody else? Seeing nobody else, we are going to council agenda. This portion of the agenda is reserved for council members to present information, announcements, and items that have come to their attention. The Brown Act precludes council staff or public discussion. Short staff responses are appropriate. The council will take no formal action. A council member may request the city clerk to calendar an item for consideration at a future meeting or refer the item to staff. In reference to AB 1234, does anybody have any AB 1234 to report? I've got one. I've got LAFCO tomorrow afternoon. Councilmember Johnson.
I want to address the graffiti issue because it has been brought before the council several times. This falls under the purview of code enforcement. There is a place where you can go on the city website online, and it will give you an opportunity to file a complaint online regarding the graffiti. As well, you can call, and you can, they probably aren't going to answer the phone because they're out busy all day long, but you can report it on, and they'll receive the message, and it is the city's responsibility to remove graffiti on city property. So if you're listening here, if you're listening at home, these are the processes we need to follow for now. And I'm hoping that there'll be great improvement, and I know it's a blight on the city, and I recognize that people think they're marking territory or leaving signs, and that being allowed to stay up for any length of time is not good for anyone in the city. The Tigers don't win, but I want to make anyone who's unsure of how that works to please avail themselves to both ways to contact code enforcement. And you can personally call me if things aren't handled within a reasonable amount of time. Everyone has my phone number. I'm on a cell phone. Call me day or night, and I'll listen.
Mr. Lucinovich, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Manager, are we prepared to calendar the workshop?
Yes, we are.
And what about the dispensary public
We're
hearings?
finishing the totals on those, and we'll be getting back to the council to set a public hearing on that. That needs to be a public hearing, and we will be reporting back on that within a few
So
weeks.
that will not happen for the next council meeting.
We'll need to give at least 10 days notice.
Can we have that, the public hearings that we have to go through to divine who will receive permits for dispensaries in California City is going to come up from the staff to the council. And I made my plug that I'd like to have the presentations made on a Saturday so that it can just start and go, and then at the end of the meeting we can make our decisions or make our evaluations. Sorry. But that's just what I would prefer.
Well, now would be an appropriate time to bring that up when we have all the council members present to see if there is an interest in doing that. Because it will take, we have to give the 10 days notice, and so we have a total of 18 applicants, so it will, yeah, arguably. I think it is for the storefront dispensary, well, we received 12 applications for storefront. Hannah? Storefront was on there. We had 9. We would probably
11.
recommend only interviewing the top half of that scale because they have also, all of those also apply for delivery dispensaries. So it should be a workable number, but it will be a, we need to give each of them an opportunity to make a presentation to the council. The council will see the numeric breakdown of all of the applicants as well as the public. And so it will be then the council's opportunity then to look at that and then choose. The the council has to choose 2 applicants for the storefront, and then 10 for the delivery only. So
I don't have
either
any
one
issues.
long day or 2 or 3 long evenings, probably what it would take.
So since I brought it up, like I said, I'd like to have a fresh day. I'd like to have ability just to listen and not speed up anybody or force the issue or say I'm tired, I want to go home. So I'd rather have it be a way that I could do this without taking it away from my regular work. So that's why Saturday sounds good to me. Oh yes, I do. I asked or suggested a workshop for the mid-year budget review, so we could actually begin to look at this, where we are this year. I asked also to review the budget for 17-18. It's something that just doesn't happen very often, where the councils actually look at what happened the year before and use it as a tool to plan on what's going to happen next. We find out where the successes and failures were of the previous year's actual process of running City Hall. So review the previous year's budget with actual numbers, because we have not seen actual numbers yet. Do look at the mid-year budget to see where the city is on track with this year's budget, where there's failures of income, failures of expenditures, problems with that we're trying to address. I'd like to consider the fast tracking of our permit process. See what we can do as far as provide insight to our staff on how we'd like to see that implemented, what we'd like to see as far as goal setting for the fast tracking, and what we can do to actually make it easier for the people that are submitting these permit processes to the city. And then I'd like to also consider potentially economic development. I believe that marijuana's I'm beginning to believe that marijuana is not going to be the answer for the city going forward, so that we do need to make a process to get ready for developing the city along whatever else would come to our city and aid our development and growth. So those are the 3 main things I wanted to talk about at the workshop, which would be our first chance as a council to actually talk policy as opposed to talk approving and disapproving items on the agenda. And I tentatively suggested the 5th of April, and that's a day where City Hall it's a Friday, City Hall is open, so we can have staff here to give reports. I don't know if we have an interest for Aero Engineering to come to talk about fast tracking the permit process. I'd like to bring in a lay person that's a contractor, Pepper Williams, maybe to talk about his perspective on developing. And then the economic development, what are we going to do next, and how we're going to plan for that process. I think it's a big deal. I think it's we need that time together to see if we can find a common voice, and that's the purpose of the meeting. Does that sound? So, City Manager, you suggested 8 in the morning on a Friday, the 5th? 9? Okay. Okay. No, that's fine.
And they gotta get coffee, you know.
Okay, that's fine. Maybe lunch. My coffee's at 6.
Their
6.
coffee's
I'm
at 8.
sorry. Yeah, that's what I have for tonight. Thank you.
Does that sound good with everybody? Okay. And we'll fire them on, see what we're looking at. Okay, that being, hang on
To
for
be clear, it sounded like there was consensus on the Saturday meeting. I just wanted to
on the Friday meeting. And the
right,
Saturday
but there was
meeting?
a Saturday meeting for the dispensaries,
For the
right?
dispensaries, yeah.
Consensus agreement on that.
Okay, anything else, sir?
I'm fine, thank you.
I'd like to see the city manager's evaluation placed on the next city council meeting. I'd like to see the chief of police pay increase be placed on the agenda. And months ago, we had a discussion about successor agency properties that we have sold, I 3 of them, and we put in one of the agreements for Canna Pharmaceuticals that they had to pay their taxes on those properties. Nothing has been paid. Of the 3 properties, there has been no property tax, parcel tax, or water standby fees paid. We sold Meister & Meister's 6 properties, Canna Pharmaceuticals 1 property, and Alberto's 1 property. Meister's 6 properties have been redeeded 3 to 4 different times, and still there is no taxes being paid on any of the 3 properties. And I know, Counselor, we discussed that at length, that especially with Canna Pharmaceuticals, that we put it in their contract that they had to pay their taxes, and they have not done so, and it's been 4 or 5 months since, at least 4 months since we've had that discussion. So I'd like it placed on the agenda for discussion. If we're going to sell these properties, especially the successor agency properties, these people that purchase them ought to be paying their property tax, parcel tax, and water standby fees.
Good? Good. Sir?
To add on to Councilman Lasinovich, we had talked about dispensaries coming here, and we were promised a rubric on the selection criteria prior to us voting on the dispensaries that the city manager would bring to us. We have not seen that selection criteria to date. So I would like to see that, know what rubric you used in your selection process. And because we were supposed to vote on that, we decided that way back when we decided to on the dispensaries, and that's why we tabled it for at least a month. That gave the city manager time to get that to us. And again, as far as today's date, we have not received that. So please submit a rubric to us on your selection criteria. Next thing, we all love our city, everybody here. All of us go about protecting it different ways. One thing I would like to see is we all need to maybe establish, and everybody here has talked about it, some type of method or process where we get people together, Chamber of Commerce, whoever, where we can come up with ways to infuse this city's budget with the $15 to $20 million that we are going to need when Measure C runs out. And as Dr. Nick pointed out, I don't think that we are on a path now to raise that money with cannabis. I mean, we need some type of process where the process is faster. And I'm not saying to skirt the rules, not at all. We need to follow all the laws and everything else, but we need to get our process going better and faster, because the way it looks now, it looks very bleak as far as us getting that $15 to $20 million annually that we're going to require, and especially with the unions, us giving them the raises. They're getting 20% this year and more later in the next 3 years. And that's going to be a monumental task that we're going to have as far as raising money through. And the most liable way that I see so far is cannabis. We can get Alberto's and we can get places like that, but the amount of money that it's going to be is minuscule. So we need to get maybe a tiger team or whatever together and try and come up with ways. maybe since Bezos isn't going to New York, maybe we can get him out here. I don't know, but we need to look at all kinds of methods of getting capital into this city. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Yeah, the only thing I've got on April 9th, I believe, we've got Fish and Wildlife coming here for a meeting with the city. May 9th, my apologies, May 9th. So just be aware of that, put that down your calendars. Hopefully that's going to be a good turnout, and we'll get a lot accomplished with that. Yeah, don't go fishing. Other than that,
One last question.
Yeah.
City Manager, you're suggesting a meeting with Siracoso for the 10th?
So that's a meeting that they scheduled with me to come in, and so, at this point, we couldn't have more than 2 council members attend.
Any council members wanting to go to that? You do? You're gonna go? Okay. So you have your 2. Okay. That's all. I just want to make sure. It was
other than
covered.
that, we're looking for a motion.
Make that motion.
First and second, thank you so very much, everybody, for attending. Have a great night and a super week.